Thank God it's Friday. Good morning and welcome to Business Morning here on Channels Television. I'm Ini John Mekwa. It may be Friday, but I don't know how much excitement Nigerians are expressing at this time as the issue of the Naira scarcity is still generating some violent actions like we hear earlier today. Reports says that in some parts of Lagos, protests may have erupted, and we always ask that you can express yourself, you express your frustration, your anger, but it's not really wise, when we start destroying things, bank ATMs, banks, and taking lives, because this will end and then we'll go back to what? To destruction. It's not a very good scene as it is. But let's start off with the program and see where we'll take that conversation to. We'll start with oil prices. Now, oil prices were on track for weekly losses as strong United States economic data heightened concerns that the Federal Reserve would further tighten monetary policy to tackle inflation, a move that could hit fuel demand even as crude stockpiles grow. Brent crude futures dropped 0.99%, almost 1% to $84.30 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures shed more than 1%, 1.12% to $78.03. Both benchmarks were headed for a weekly decline of about 2%. Oil prices have seesawed over the past weeks because of fears of recession hitting the United States amid inflation, fighting rate hikes, and hopes for a pickup in demand in China, which is the world's top oil importer. And still staying in that oil space now, new data from the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, shows that Nigeria's oil rig count has increased by 13 in January, and that's the highest level since 2020. According to OPEC's latest market reports, the country's oil rig count rose by 85.7% from 7 recorded in September to 13 last month. That's January. The oil cartel attributes the rise in oil rig count in Nigeria to increased oil production during the period. The OPEC report showed that Nigeria's oil production increased by 23,000 barrels a day to 1.258 million barrels per day in January, and that's the highest since January 2022. The increase can be attributed largely to the efforts by the federal government to curb vandalism and oil theft. Some experts expect oil rig count to keep rising following the recent offer of 7 offshore blocks by the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission. Outside Nigeria, copper prices in London rebounded from a 5-week low on Thursday as hopes for a demand recovery in top consumer China offset negative effects from a stronger dollar. 3-month copper on the London Metal Exchange rose 0.6% to $8,909 a ton, while aluminium increased 0.6% to $2,398.50 a ton. Zinc advanced 0.5% to $3,032.50, and lead was up 0.5% to $2,062.50 a ton. And copper hit a 5-week low on Wednesday as fears of further interest rate hikes boosted the dollar, making greenback-priced metals more expensive to holders of other currencies. While actual copper demand remained tepid, prices were supported by hopes that consumption of the metal will eventually rebound in China after the country removed harsh COVID-19 restrictions. Back here in Nigeria, and that burning issue here in the country, a day after violent protests over scarcity of the redesigned Naira note in Benin City, that's the Edo State capital, some relief seems to have come for residents as the CBN resorted to dispensing cash to POS operators directly at markets. The CBN says the move is to mitigate the challenges of getting cash in the absence of banking operations, which, according to the controller of Edo State Office of the CBN, Mr. Ren Ajubo, will likely resume next week.
A day after the violent street protest against the scarcity of new Naira notes, normalcy has returned to the Kingsway axis, and the road leading to CBN is cordoned off. However, These women at the New Benin market are far from being calm.
Money not there. See, now this one I need money a day. I want to transfer.
Also, at the government house, the state government, POS operators, and the Apex Bank are in a meeting to provide succor to residents.
As a state government, we want to see how we can help you facilitate further interaction and also reach out to our people to calm them down and also to reduce their suffering.
Your Excellency, in fact, they called me that they are not going to open because a lot of their facilities were damaged. Some may likely open tomorrow, others will likely be on Monday because of the level of damage. So the POS people will be a veritable tool.
Governor Godwin Obaseki is a witness to the cash disbursement at the CBN office. It takes the opportunity to see the damages to nearby financial institutions.
What about access? They destroy that one too. Yes, Where they go?
To make good their promise, the CBN supervises payments at the Oba market and then the Kusa market. For some, it's a case of half bread being better than none.
The federal government and the central bank, so they should come together and work together and see how we can dispose those ones. So if we're able to dispose those ones, then collecting 5,000 naira is a welcome development.
It's a nice experience. I thank the government for bringing this to our doorsteps. At least it will reduce some of our problems that we are facing now.
While Edo residents look forward to a long-lasting solution to the short supply of the redesigned notes, the Edo State Police Command has confirmed the arrest of some suspects involved in Wednesday's protest, which claimed 2 lives.
Temporary calm in at least parts of Edo State, but that much cannot be said for other parts of the country. Lagos, which seemed to have been immune to it at this time, now we hear reports of protests and some violent action by some angry Nigerians because they are not able to access their money, in some cases the new Naira note, in other cases. Now let's look at the picture because, I mean, it can get confusing. We have some state governors who have come out to say that the old Naira note still remains legal tender in their states. For instance, in Ogun State, we heard from the governor there who had said that any bank that refuses to receive the old Naira notes will be shut. We also had a similar command or order or instruction or directive, whatever you want to call it, in Borno State. And then you also have where, of course, the president came up to say the only legal tender as part of the old one will be 200 Naira. The old 200 Naira is still a legal tender from what the president, that's it, you have it there. It's still a legal tender, even though at this time it is also a scarce commodity. Now, you also have the courts, the Supreme Courts gave that order that this note should still remain legal tender, at least until now, the 22nd of February, when the Supreme Court is supposed to give judgment on the matter. Then you have the other hand, where the CBN had said that you should return, now in this case, the 500 and the 1,000 to CBN offices in every state, and that is supposed to end today. So a lot of things for Nigerians to grapple with. And we have the elections coming up next weekend. Now, with all of these protests and all of this anger and frustration, what happens to the election? And we don't have to think very far away to see, if we do not hold that election, some of the dangers that the economy and the country may face. A lot of things on the plate of Nigerians to chew at this time. From here on Channels TV, we ask you to please express your anger and frustration peacefully and not destroy properties, because eventually it will come back to haunt us. We'll still have to use the bank afterwards. But anyway, let's talk about how this is affecting businesses from the eye of Dr. Muda Yusuf, is Chief Executive Officer of CPPE, joins us virtually from Lagos. Good morning, Dr. Yusuf. How is it in your area? The old notes, are they still in circulation? Are you able to get the new one? How does it look like? What's the picture?
Well, the situation is still extremely very bad. Those who hold the old notes can no longer use them because the CBN had not reversed its position on the old notes. So the old notes are no longer legal tender. Many people are stuck with it. Well, we have been told that they have to go to central bank and all of that. But the whole place is in a very chaotic situation. And it also underlines the lack of understanding of the wider implications and the magnitude of the challenges that this whole currency redesign has created. The issue is not even so much the redesign. The bigger issue is the mopping up of the cash. The central bank has said that it has mopped up about 2.1 trillion, and it has released into circulation maybe around 300 billion or 400 billion. So already we have a fundamental problem of shortage. So no matter what we do, for as long as you have that huge deficit, this crisis will continue. Because you cannot take people's money to the tune of almost 2.1 trillion and you release just 300 billion. I mean, how do you make up for the difference? That's a major deficit. So whether you are talking of 200 Naira note and all of that, that crisis will remain. And how do you explain to people that you took their money for purposes of exchanging it and you're not giving back them their money? And some of them to even use the online situation, the online outlet is also very, very congested. And in any case, we have to reckon with the kind of economy that we are running. Many people are in far-flung places, in rural areas. Many people travel several kilometers to come and deposit their money. Many of them are even unbanked. So we don't force cashless on citizens. It is not done. So my reasoning of this is possibly that this is essentially a political thing to aim at money laundering and all of that. If that is the case, then that's a completely different kettle of fish. But the situation is still very, very chaotic, and something needs to be done urgently about it.
You don't see this directive by the president that the old 200 Naira note be used, be allowed to run at least till the 10th of April. You don't see it easing things off, especially for those petty traders?
It cannot ease it. It cannot ease it because 200 Naira notes is less than 10% of total currency. And because of inflation, a whole lot of transactions are taking place with 500 and 1,000. Inflation has devastated the value of money. How many people are using the 200 Naira notes? And already there's a huge deficit of people's money that the CBN is sitting on. That is why people are so angry. How do I have money that I cannot access? That is not acceptable. We are dealing with a country of over 200 million people. We have states that almost half of their local government don't have banks because of security. So this policy, it may be well intended, but there are a whole lot of assumptions that cannot stand, assumptions that are not valid. If you don't quickly go back to what the Supreme Court has said, and that's another matter. If you had a pronouncement by the Supreme Court that this order should exist for some time, and yet the other, that's a major concern. They are talking of rule of law. So this 200 Naira cannot solve this problem. The best way to do this is to go back to what the Supreme Court has ruled on. Old and new should coexist and gradually we withdraw it. And if you are looking for vote buyers, we should use intelligence. We have institutions of state that are supposed to zero in on those people. Holding cash is not an offense in this country yet. Because the implication, the way this is coming as if we are criminalizing the holding of cash. That is why we have the NFIU, the Financial Intelligence Unit. We have the Special Control Unit on money laundering. That is their job. to look at the transactions, and if there's any suspicious transaction, you zero in on them. You don't subject the entire country into this wholesale impediment or constraints or repression. It's not fair. You zero in on people that have suspicious transactions. Otherwise, if people are giving you money for swapping, you give them back their money. If you don't have the new one, you give them back their old note. Let them go and continue their lives. But what is happening now is that this thing is seriously affecting the lives of people and the livelihood of people, especially the downtrodden. That is the most unfortunate thing. So both the president and the CBN, they are understating the scale of the challenge that this problem is creating. And it's nationwide. Even though people are trying to politicize it about vote buying and all of that. Of course, which of the transactions are for vote buying? Which of the transactions are legitimate? That's the problem of intelligence. We cannot have a sweeping measure for everybody, including innocent people.
All right, Doctor.
All the working capital of some people have been locked up in the bank.
All
and
right.
The banks still don't feel safe. Many of the banks are now locked up. And we have an election coming up next week. This is very inappropriate.
All right, Dr. Yusuf, if we see the scenario in Edo State, where we see the CBN now working with the POS, which was a question I asked the governor when we had the meeting with journalists about 2 weeks ago. We see them now coming down to work with the POS. Do you see that as a viable solution to at least deal with the problem at hand?
Those solutions are not sustainable. They are not sustainable. Because if the CBN itself has admitted that you have practically seized almost 70% of the cash that was deposited, all this situation can't solve the problem. How can you take out 2.1 trillion and say you release back 300 billion? All these things are cosmetic. These problems will not go away. This currency thing is concerned. People must have access to the money that they have given you. They are not begging for overdraft. They are not begging for loan. It is their money. And if you have any evidence that this transaction is for vote buying, you isolate those ones. But let the ordinary Nigerians continue with their lives. That is why there's all this agitation, and people are trying to blackmail and say it's political. Can't you feel the pain in the eyes of everybody? If you're having this situation in a city like Lagos, Abuja, what now happens in the rural areas? Many of them have been the economy has been completely paralyzed, completely. This is not the way to manage this kind of transition in terms of currency. This is not the way at all.
All right, Dr.
Yusuf. And I've had argument that this has some economic outcome, inflation, foreign exchange. All those things have no basis in economics. They have no basis. That cannot give us any outcome. What we are seeing now is economic repression. That is it. If prices are coming down, they are coming down because people don't even have money to buy at all. People are selling at a loss. Is that the kind of economy we want to encourage?
Yeah, because I was going to ask you, we've seen manufacturers' confidence, of course, drop in the midst of all of this. Yesterday, we talked about investors from the foreign scene, diasporans. How do you see this affecting, for instance, by the end of February, early March, we'll be expecting inflation figures, expecting PMI, expecting MPC even next month. How do you see this shaping the conversation around that time? Because these are the details that will make up whatever data we get at that time.
Well, first of all, when you talk about inflation, because I've seen some people, even including the CBN, saying that because of these policies, prices are coming down. That is like talking about the piece of the graveyard. Because if you paralyze the entire economy and nobody is buying, of course, prices will come down, exchange rates will come down. But that is not an economy. It's like the piece of the graveyard. So those are not the indicators to look at. Because the indicators to look at is how vibrant, how are you able to restore vibrancy in the economy? Because there cannot be an economy if there is no transaction. If the payment system at the retail end have been practically paralyzed, you can't have an economy. And I've said this consistently. Currency as a percentage of money supply in this economy is just about 5%. 95% of money is still in the banking system. So if you cannot influence the economy with 95% of money in the banking system, is it the 5% that will make the difference? So the whole idea is completely misplaced. And just as I said, if this is about politics, then we need to state it clearly. And if that is what we want to achieve, let the Financial Intelligence Unit and the Special Unit on Money Laundering, let them do their work. Let them isolate transactions that are suspicious. And let innocent Nigerians have their cash back and go and be doing their business. But this is paralyzing the economy. It's economic repression. It's very unfair on the ordinary Nigerians. Very, very unfair. And yet we have an election coming up in a week's time. What are we going to achieve from all of this? For me, it's completely misplaced. Completely. Especially the approach that we have adopted.
So, Dr. Yusuf, we have, as you have noted, what looks like conflicting situation. So we have, of course, the Supreme Court order, and then we have the president saying that it's just 200 that is legal. And then, of course, we have the state governors coming to say, some state governors have threatened banks if they refuse to take the old notes, What does this do to the general business environment of Nigeria? I know that a lot of countries, when it's close to the election, there's a lot of uncertainty. But can this pass as just one of those uncertainty times because of the elections, or do we have bigger things to worry about when we take a look at the bigger picture?
The bigger thing we need to worry about is our elections. Because a lot has gone into the preparation of these elections, both on the part of the electoral body and on the part of the political parties. A lot of resources have been committed to by truncating the entire process. That is my biggest worry. Because this is a major disruption, not just to the economy, but to our transition program, in which we have invested a whole lot. So it's already normally, typically, an election period comes with a whole lot of uncertainty. Naira design policy, which is completely uncalled for. If you are looking for vote buyers, if you are looking for suspicious transactions, let the agencies of government do their work. You have the Financial Intelligence Unit. Their duty to monitor transactions in the banks, whether it is online, whether it is physical cash. You have the Special Unit on Money Laundering. That is their job. The CBN cannot come with a sweeping approach of mopping up people's cash. Innocent people. That is the cash they are using to do business. That's the cash they are using for their livelihoods. You mop it up and you are celebrating that you have mopped up 2.1 trillion from the economy. And so what? Is that a good thing to be saying? In an economy that you have a large rural economy, where you have a large informal sector, that over 30 million people don't have bank accounts. How do we impose that kind of policy on Nigerians? It's very, very unfair. Very, very unfair. And it's unfortunate that you have to impose this kind of crisis on our reduce the whole discussion into politics. This is not politics. We can see the evidence from the streets. It's not politics at all. This is a violation of people's rights.
All right, Dr. Muda Yusuf, the Chief Executive Officer for the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us on this issue, which is obviously a very burning one in the economy at this time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome back. Still watching Business Morning here on Channels Television, and we're still staying on that very burning issue in Nigeria, the issue of the redesigned Naira, the old notes, legality or not. We have joining us now an individual who has had a taste from banking to government to the private sector, former Commissioner of Commerce in Ogun State. Before then, he was a banker. Now he's the chairman of Odua Investment Company Limited. Mr. Bimbo Ashiru joins us virtually from Ikoyi here in Lagos. Mr. Ashiru, thank you so much for your time. I'm really looking forward to this conversation because you've been in the banking industry, you've been in the banking sector, you've been in government, now you're back to the private sector. Why do you think we have all of this? I mean, the central bank is saying one thing, the Supreme Court is saying one thing, the president has given another order which is supposed to give a reprieve, but the private sector is not happy with this. I mean, tell us, since you've been in all areas, tell us what's really going on. What do you think is going on?
Thank you very much, Ini, for having me. I think there's more to this, but people just try to play around it. And I will tell you this, there's nothing wrong in cashless policy, but the implementation and the timing is totally wrong. But I mean, in fairness, the president himself has said it, that they want to reduce inflation, lower inflation, they want to curb corruption, and they want to stop vote buying. Let me be honest with you, Nigeria is not ripe for cashless economy. We are not right for it. If you're honest, but you see, if you want to implement it, the implementation should be gradually done. I mean, in America, they change their currency. In Britain, they change their currency, and they have a gradual way of bringing it back into the system. But the way it's been done is as if they are targeting something, which is wrong, totally wrong. And let me tell you this, when you talk about vote buying, election is around the corner next week, Saturday. When you talk about vote buying, let's drop vote buying. Let's drop Supreme Court's issue. Let's drop their policies. If you want to do any election, you need money. Even in America, you need money. And let me tell you this, the agents that are going to go all over the country, thousands of them, you need the money, they need money for logistics. So how do they get there? And if you're avoiding vote buying and you want to have credit election, if you deprive people of this cash thing, they have no problems. Then that means we won't get the right person to be voted for, because if the agents don't have money, they can't go to the polling booth to ensure that their candidate is not cheated. So we have to be careful about this. I mean, I sympathize with Nigerians, and I see the way Mr. President made his presentation yesterday, sympathizing with Nigeria. I'm not going to blame him. I will blame the handlers, the economists that are around Mr. President telling him what should be done. For example, I saw the CBN governor talking yesterday and saying, well, I sympathize with Nigeria. If you sympathize with Nigeria, you must have a process to get this done. There should be a process in place. When you want to reduce, change into cashless economy, you want to have Naira design, you must educate people. Go to the rural areas. The people that are suffering are the rural dwellers. And they are the majority. We have a population of over 200 million people in this country. They are the people that are going to suffer for it. The rich, as I'm talking to you, I have less than 5,000 Naira with me. Yes, fine. I can use anywhere I'm going to do my purchases, I can use my ATM card. How many people in the rural areas have ATM cards? Do they have the facility to sustain it? No, no light, nothing. Even within us, in the urban areas, you want to transfer money within banks, it's not done. It's a problem. And you are now telling us that you want to do, no, cashless will be gradually drawn. It will be, yes, I accept that you're the cashless economy, but now you are talking about this cash. When you go to parties, you see people carrying bundles of this cash at parties. Is that our priority in this country? No. The drug dealers are suffering. I saw what happened in all the states. I saw people rioting, which I am totally against it. You don't need to demonstrate. You can demonstrate peacefully, but I don't support the idea of burning things. We are going to suffer for it again, the masses. But the point is that we must sit down and analyze this very well. I don't know the kind of economy they are talking about, lower inflation. How do you lower inflation? Yes, growing up, I used to say that we have the highest denomination is 100 Naira, 50 Naira, 100 Naira, 200 Naira. We go to 500, now 1,000. You see, it's the rate of inflation. And let's be honest with ourselves, and Naira became worthless. It's not valuable. And we are now adding things to it. To me, it is targeted as the coming election. Yes, fine, vote buying. But if you are talking about vote buying, you must think about even the implementation of these things, because the agents, even the youth corpers that the INEC will employ to do these things for logistics, they need money, they need cash. How many people are you going to give an Okada man in the village POS, your ATM to pay? The guy will slap you and throw you off. So if you want to achieve a credible election and want things to be done properly, then we must put all the indices, all the ingredients that are needed. There is need for cash. I've contested an election before. Nothing about vote buying. You need to pay your agents in all areas, in all the communities. You need to pay them. And they are not going to collect. If you transfer money to their account, it doesn't get there. How will they use the money? How do they spend it? So these are the things we need to look at. That if you want to say that election, then this is the wrong approach to it. We can't do vote buying. They don't do it. They don't give money in public. They can give dollars. They can give dollars. Let's be honest ourselves. And we are talking about having 500 million naira in the banking system, 2.7 billion naira trillion outside the banking system. Do you know how much dollars we have, even in Nigeria, all over the world, outside American economy? Cash, I'm sure if you have, you can see up to $10 billion cash in this country today. They built warehouses towards the election. So let's get it right. They can give people dollars if you want to do vote buying. I saw a video circulating around where somebody was dishing out dollars. So let's clear that. That is not the issue. The issue is that how do you must engage people. You must get to the rural areas, get the local government involved, then the state government. And that's why the state governors are shouting, yes, because they would want getting this. I mean, has anybody gone to the villa or to the CBN in Abuja to demonstrate? No, but they are going to the state governors. So they are the governors. The state governors are battling with it. Some of them are going to be elected. They are battling with campaign. Some of them have to suspend campaigning because they can't campaign when things. I mean, or else they are going to kill people. So we need to be very, very sensitive about our laws, our implementation of our laws, in terms of our policies. We must engage people. That is what is done in developed countries. And for example, when pounds were being changed, I remember I have some pounds with me. I took them to London and I changed them just at one of the Bureau de Change centers. And the guy told me that next week, if you are going to change this money, then it took them almost a year to change it. Now they've introduced new currency, Prince Charles and late mother, may God bless her soul, the Queen. But they are spending the money simultaneously, they are spending them together. So you spend them and you gradually withdraw them from circulation, withdraw them. 200,000, 200 naira. What will it do to the rural dwellers? The banks are, and the bank officials too, some of them are corrupt. They get this money, they go and sell it, and get some money as premium. So people you see, when you introduce policies like that, people get compromised. People become rich because they are corrupt themselves. So if you want to identify or fight corruption, there are better ways to fight it. If you want to stop vote buying, like the president said, people should go out and vote according to their conscience. So let me be honest with you, Nigeria has gotten to a level that they know who they are going to vote for, whether they buy the vote or they don't buy it. They know who to vote for. Nigerians, they are aware of the situation in the country.
All right, Mr. Ashiri.
So we should stop deceiving ourselves.
Yeah, Mr. Ashiri, the fear now is, and I'm happy you said Nigerians have gotten to the level of voting their conscience, and vote buying should not influence anybody's decision. But the fear now is, with the protests, and as you've noted, the lack of scarcity of Naira, how do you see the election? The election is just next weekend. It's like a week from now.
I want to bring you back memory lane, and I will tell you this. Exactly 30 years ago, when there was an election, I mean, we had the God bless Alhaji Chief M.K. Abiola and Bashir Tofa. They were contesting. June 12th. There were so many things that were done for that election, because normally you're supposed to prepare the polling booth, do everything. Many things were done to make sure that election failed. But the God we serve in this country ensured that election took place, Nigerians voted, and now Chief Abiola emerged the winner. But what happened? Into strategies, all the necessary strategies to create something. And they said, well, with all these things, the election is annulled because they didn't want MK Abiola to be there. Are you getting me? They voted en masse. June 7th, June 12th. Nigerians came out and voted. And this time around, let me be honest with you, Nigerians will come out and vote. They are ready to vote. They want to vote the person they wanted. So the point is this, exactly, it's 30 years, it's now repeating itself. So whatever the case may be, INEC will prepare, you see burning in so many states, if there are so many unrest everywhere, because this will create unrest everywhere, so it will affect the election if we don't take time. So that means the election will be postponed if you don't take time. So how do we avert this? And even between now and the weekend, there's no way they can put money to circulation that will satisfy everybody. No, it's not possible. So when we make laws, when we make policies, we should look at the implication. What will happen after that? We must think through it. Some people must be able to think through. I mean, even ordinary, when you go to parties in developed countries, they will give you rules. This is the first exit, second exit, in case there is fire. Even in the plane, they tell you things that should be done when there is emergency. Nigeria, I mean, I saw the CBN talking yesterday. No empathy. No, it's not. This is not showing off of saying you want to deal with some people. No, it is wrong. You are doing this to the detriment of Nigerians. And whether they like it or not, we want to vote next Saturday, and we are going to vote. We will vote for the candidate we want. But the problem is that they do all sorts of things to frustrate people. But nobody is ready to be frustrated. Nigerians are now wiser. They want to vote for the candidate they want. So whichever way people like, if they like, they shouldn't. They will trek. They will trek to that place to go and vote. So whether you are saying nobody is even interested in vote buying anymore, because buying votes, collecting money, it has impoverished many Nigerians. So every 4 years, some people will come this year, give you money, and they go back to their house, come back again another 4 years, give you money. Meanwhile, you are suffering for the next 3 years. No, it won't happen again in Nigeria. They have been sensitized. If you are going to do a policy that will affect everybody, get them involved. There's so many towns, villages that they don't have banks. So what I'm saying in essence is this, that the government should be sensitive towards some policy there. And I will blame the economic advisors, the people that are around, that are advising, that these are the implications, because it will affect everybody.
All right.
Yeah, the danger is there. Yes.
All right, Mr. Bimbo Ashiru, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and perspective with us on this issue of the Naira and how it's especially going to may affect the election, which is just about a week away. Yeah. Thank you so much. And do stay safe as things are at this time.
And God bless you.
Amen. You too. So there you heard it. You might be angry, and you have a right to be angry and to express your anger. But do remember that when you destroy those properties, whether they're yours, the government, or the banks, you are the biggest user of that property. That means you will feel the pinch even more. And if the protests and the disruptions continue, what do you think will happen to the election next weekend? So if you're angry and you're supposed to use your vote to change the situation, there's no election, what will you do? So, I mean, these are some of the thoughts that we would like for Nigerians to have at the back of your mind, even in the midst of the anger and the frustration, which we all feel it, I can assure you that. But anyway, let's go to the markets now, and Anita Edet comes in to give us a summary of trading from yesterday.
Good morning, Uni.
Yeah. Good morning.
Well, yes, I heard you talk about the issue about the Naira, and then
it's the only issue in Nigeria at this time.
And then, of course, election is about 8 days away, so all of that is coming into play at a very critical time of the moment. But so far, for the month of February, for the market is still very much in the green, 2.4%.
Yeah, but it's marginal for yesterday, 0.03.
Yeah. But still, it's not reacting to
all of the disruptions and
exactly.
You can say that again.
That's quite interesting. So now let's just talk about Thursday's trading session. So for the market, our markets, the stock market, the barometer of for the economy is up 6.38% year to date. Month to date, 2.4%, and still climbing higher into the 54,000 level. It's halfway into 55,000, 0.03%. That's what the Thursday's trading session ended with, and then about 7.53 billion naira, but when you approximate it, that's about 8 billion naira in terms of approximation, and 29.688 trillion naira. That's the current level of total value of equities listed on the NGX. Let's move over to the sectoral performance. The Reds have it for the day. We saw profit-taking hit the likes of FBN Holdings, Owando, Wema Bank, Lafarge Wapco, Fidelity, NGX Group. So, but although the market was marginally positive in terms of market breadth. We had 17 gainers against 15 losers. So, but we had the gains from the likes of Zenith Bank, GTCO, Geregu, as well as Nigerian Breweries countered that loss. So that's why all the markets, all the counters here was mostly in the red, no thanks to profit taking, not any other factors, but just profit taking. Now we saw the loan gain from the consumer goods counter. But let's take a look at the activity chart. In terms of activity, there you have it. Volume of activity in contrast to the previous day, 6.40% decline for the volume of transactions. Value was down by 17.28%, as you can see on the board, while the number of deals was also down in contrast to Wednesday's figure. It was down by 8.09%. Now, so let's talk more about the markets, the transactions yesterday for the NGX, and to talk more about that market, let's talk to Seun Arambada, who's an equity trader at FBN Merchant Bank. Seun, now I know that you've been monitoring our market, and so far it's green all the way. Yes, we know we've been talking about the Naira, but this time let's talk more about the markets. What's driving? What are the catalysts for the market sustained uptrend 4 consecutive days in the week?
Right. Good morning, Victor, and thank you for having me on your show this morning. All right. So it's interesting to see that the market has carried on the positive momentum that we saw coming in from the fourth quarter of 2022, and we saw that sustained pretty much through January. Although now we are seeing that taper a bit. Speaking to the drivers, I think by and large it's just, when you consider the level of liquidity that we have in the market these days, and when you see where fixed income yields are currently, I mean, the alternatives are limited, and we've just seen those funds rotate within equities. Well, I mean, that's on one hand. On the other hand, I think investors are also taking positions, for dividend ahead of, some full year results, especially from the banks, and that's why you see the kind of activities that you see on banks, right? In terms of earnings performance, well, it hasn't been really disappointing. I mean, in one word, I would say it has been mixed, right? And then we saw a little bit of reactions to results, saw the reaction to MTN results and all of that. But in line with what we expected, we expect that, the activity levels will sort of lose steam as elections draw closer, and that's what, you've been seeing in the past, in the past days. Well, post-elections, I mean, it's going to be surprising to see the markets pick up well, except if you see, disappointing earnings releases.
Okay, so now, of course, we will be talking about other markets. So just in 16 seconds, what are we to expect for Friday's closing when you take all of these factors? Are we going to see some bit of profit taking, or is the market going to sustain this bullish trend for a 5th consecutive session today?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the markets will still sustain the current momentum. It's surprised the market should close a little bit higher. I mean, the marginal close on the positive, right? Most investors at this time would, just probably, stay on the sideline to see how, things pan out, with polity. So, I mean, just the marginal close positive.
Okay, thank you for your time on our show, Seun Arambada, equity trader at FBN Merchant Bank. Okay, so now let's move to another side of the market, the fixed income market at this time. Well, it was with mixed sentiment, but at the same time, bullish sentiment is what it closed the Thursday's trading session. So on the FMDQ securities market, we have the 26th of April topping this ladder here, 8 deals. Then the value 4.60 billion naira. Now cumulative total number of deals there, 31 worth 18.12 billion naira. For this other side of the market, the treasury bills market, it was bearish sentiment. Average yield had expanded there by 11 basis points to 3.8%. And of course, we saw some contraction at the mid and the mid segments, and this comes amid buying interest on the 112-day to maturity bill, which fell by about 15 basis points. So, but on your board there, if we can have that board, we just saw that bearish sentiment affect the treasury bills market. Now, for the OMO market, the open market operations average yield there had expanded by 92 basis points to 3.8%. And then, of course, we saw at the money markets, we saw that the Naira, we were talking about the Naira, it was unchanged today at 460 Naira at the official rate, as in contrast to what we saw previously. Now, but against the euro, it had also gained, but as of yesterday, the Naira depreciated at the investors and exporters window. It was down by 0.11% at 462 Naira to the dollar. And that's in contrast to what it had previously, 461 Naira 50 kobo to the dollar. Then at this is coming at a time when the cash supply is, really hitting hard. The shortage, what's called the Naira crisis. What we had initially was an FX crisis, now is a Naira crisis. But then, still at the money market, overnight lending rate, it contracted by 38 basis points to about 16.3% in the absence of any significant inflow into the system. So that's it for that market. But for the unlisted securities market, we also had another bullish close for that segment of the unlisted securities markets.
Yeah, well, Anita, I think it would be interesting to follow the value of the Naira, at this time because of the scarcity. Scarcity creates value, so
exactly.
Let's see how much value, artificial it may be,
yes,
at the end of the day. Yeah, because, I mean, sometimes when the dollar is scarce because it's not our currency, then we see the value is really high. So let's see what happens to the Naira at the end of all of this and see if it will grow. Thank you so much for that. Well, let's move to the next market now. That's the crypto market with Ladi. Ladi, I don't know if they're using the old or the new Naira. I don't know. Are you using the coins?
The coins. Well, I've seen videos of people trying to get hold of those coins, and it doesn't look pretty because what can you really buy? With those coins at this time? They're heavy, and I just hope we don't have to start doing trade by barter at some point. Maybe if you have yam, I could,
I don't know what you would have,
give you my rice, and if it gets that bad.
I have meat.
You have meat. Okay, so we'll find a way to trade because it's really
yes,
really bad.
It is really biting hard.
Yeah, it's biting hard, and I do feel for the people that are going through a lot right now.
We are going through it, Ladi. You talked about how you couldn't get your tank filled up at a filling station because the transaction couldn't go through.
Exactly.
And then, of course, you don't have cash, so we're all filling it.
So much pressure on the banking system.
We just express it differently, and that's why we're pleading with Nigerians to remember not to go violent because we all lose. We all lose at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And elections are right there.
Exactly. Anyway, this market's been oscillating between greed and neutral this week, but it's had a big jump. Talking about Bitcoin this week, let's look at the market cap. Today is $1.08 trillion, up 2.90%, but away from the above 1.10 trillion we had yesterday with that big jump. Volume traded 9.58% up, and we see Bitcoin dominance sitting at 42.26%. Let's look at the price of Bitcoin this morning, 23,715. Big pullback there, 4.04%. Don't know what happened yesterday. It was looking like the bulls are ready to take it above 25,000, but they had that pullback. Could be profit taking at this point with the bears. Volume traded $38.98 billion. Let's look at the price of Ethereum. That's holding on. $1,657, but it's also down 2.22%. Volume traded $11.86 billion. Let's bring in Michael Inaji now, financial market analyst. Hello, Michael. Good morning. Hello, Michael.
All right. Good morning, Ladi. Can you hear me?
Fantastic. Yeah, we have Michael. Great to have you, Michael. So this market, talking about Bitcoin this week, price action did have that incredible jump yesterday. Don't know what spiked that, but now we're having a pullback, and obviously we've had issues this week from the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission going after Paxos, stopping it from sending out all those BUSD tokens, but the market still rallied regardless, but it looks like something else is pulling the market back today.
Yes, so it's been a whirlwind in terms of price action. We've seen Bitcoin basically bounce from 16,000 all the way to 25,000, representing a $9,000 move, almost a 50% move from the bottom. A while ago, back in December, I said that we have we look like we're bottoming out And I remember I said the downside maximum was about 50% from where we are. And so now that you've gotten this relief bounce, and basically what you're looking at is a couple of things. You're looking at the Wells order that came in from the SEC and how scared money is going to put money into Bitcoin, which is sovereign, which cannot be litigated by the SEC. So that's something that you have that can explain some of the what might look like an inorganic flow. So when you couple new demand because people are scared that their stable coins are going to get seized into Bitcoin, that translates into some of the move that we're seeing so far. But ultimately, in all technical time frames, it does look like this rally can be sustained as high as 42 to 50K. Obviously, it's not going to happen overnight, but I really do think we've found some short-term bottom, and then we've begun another rally. It's not a bull market, but we're in the writing for a rally.
So I guess we can't call this a bull market rally anymore. Or is it still, within that purview? And what are you expecting for next week for price action?
Yes. So yeah, no, I no longer consider this a bear market rally at all. I would think that we've moved out of this. And if you look, most of the alts are bottoming out. I think most coins look very healthy in terms of bottoms and finding good opportunities. I really do think at the end of the day, you have the macro picture, looking better than it was before. Yes, there's talks of maybe another 50 basis points here and there, but the crux of the damage has been done. There's not much more that we can expect. And so I think in the next 360 days, we're going to see Bitcoin trading somewhere closer to 50,000. And so what does that mean for alts? You can see alts return back to the all-time highs they were at, if not break new ones. So I really do believe in the free market, there's only one asset that truly tells you how people are feeling, and that's Bitcoin. And so I think Bitcoin is basically telling you that most risk investors have the appetite, to get back in, and they're seeing some kind of a bottom, regardless of how wary it looks, but a bottom looks like it's been formed.
All right, Michael. Well, we're all looking for that bottom in 2022. I guess some people have found it. Thank you so much, Michael Inaji, financial market analyst. Thank you.
Thank you, Liddy.
All right, so if we look at the top odds by market cap now, we see it's just Matic. They're holding up that counter 2.60% up, $1.40. So as it's looking, it's not looking bad, but we did have that pullback. And I did mention to you that there might be a pullback. The ritual with our Fridays, we've been used to that for a while now.
Yes, the Valentine Friday.
Exactly.
All right, Ladi, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll see you at 1:30,
Right,
Business Incorporated. That's it on the program for this week. It's been a Naira week. I don't know what it will be next week. Maybe an election week. We do hope it will be an election week because election is just about a week away. So please, yes, you're angry. There's no cash. Your money's been in the bank and you can't access it, but please do consider the future when you're expressing those anger. This is Business Morning, and we plead with you to stay safe and keep your anger in. Use it on Elections Day. It's just about a week away. Vote for somebody who will change the situation. I'm Amy John.